Thanks, Brendan. Hi, everyone. Thank you for coming to ask me to come speak today. I'm going to just say one thing outright. I'm not a professional blogger. So when I was asked to speak, I thought, how can I bring value to this forum in something that I have experienced and I can give to you today? And it's not about blogging. I've just started a blog fairly recently, and it's growing, and I'm enjoying it immensely, but it's not something that I'm going to pretend I know a huge amount about. So what I would like to actually focus on today is more about how to improve your level of photography. I'm not going to teach you about apertures and shutter speeds and all the basic 101 stuff that you can do at a course, but more about what you should be considering when you're shooting for your blog, or even if you want to take it to the next level and actually become a professional photographer, and if you want to tell a story if you're on that location. You might be a writer for a blog and you've got a camera, but you don't quite know what you should do with it. And I'm hoping after my talk today, I've kind of shed a bit of light, excuse the pun, on helping you just improve the way you look at photography, the way you think about your photography, and improve your overall quality of your blog post by having a better overall imagery on there. And I think it's been spoken about before, how important imagery in a blog is, and how we've just heard from Cameron all about the writing. And the other half of that is the photography and the imagery that goes with it. People love images. It speaks to a lot of people. Just before I go into my talk, I'll just tell you, I'm on Facebook and I often post images that I've worked hours in studio with assistants and stylists. I maybe get one person like the photograph, maybe not even that. I photographed my wife in her deli the other day with her sister doing some food. I got like 23 comments. I don't know how many people liked it. And I just realized what the power of an image that talks to people is all about. So that illustrates that photography is very powerful. And I want to go a little bit more into the detail about how you can just, when you're on your next assignment or job, think about that, and also how to approach it from more of a professional point of view. Photography is all about seeing. Now, I can't teach you how to see. I mean, you can tell, I can give you all my camera, we can go and photograph the same landscape, and we're all going to shoot it differently. So I can't teach you that. But there are certain things that I can tell you about and bring it to your awareness that will hopefully help you see things in a slightly more different light. So there's certain prerequisites for photography that I would think are important. Okay, so I think it's kind of one of the evident things. We all like travel. We all like going to faraway places and seeing amazing landscapes and beautiful, different, exotic environments. And we love photography. But there's certain things that it's just not enough to have a love for travel and be passionate about photography. You have to have more than that, and that's one of the things that it's definitely you've got to have is a passion. You've got to love and live to take photographs. You're going to want to get to a place and pick up that camera and just off the run go and want to take photographs of everything you see. And that's me. I'm pretty much like a baby in a toy store, a kid in a toy store. I want to grab everything, and I really become very excited about what I see around me. So I think one of the key ingredients is to be very passionate about about photography, and to really to put your heart in your images and connect with your images. Be curious. Observe, look around. There's lots of things that are hidden in a culture that, if you're looking hard enough, you'll find. Often on first glance, you see things that look different, but you've got to really go a little bit step further and find those things that make something different and unique that will help tell a story to somebody far away about the culture and the landscape that you're in. So curiosity is a very important thing with passion. Capture the essence. For me, it's a very difficult and a very easy thing at the same time. To capture one moment, a split second, to tell a story about a whole culture. It doesn't have to be a big landscape with the Eiffel Tower in the background and the Seine and the Louvre. You can actually do that by getting a very small detail of a guy sipping a coffee in a coffee shop in a brasserie in Paris. So to capture the essence of where you are in an image is something that tells a story to somebody far away, and it helps inspire them. And inspires you as well to be able to see that image and transport them to that place that you were at. By just looking at an image in a blog or a story or somewhere far away, it's a really important thing to be able to just really tell something. That was in Tuscany, in Italy. And it's not good enough just to photograph the Eiffel Tower or the Statue of Liberty. We've seen that a million times. You have to actually do more than that. You have to put that into context with the light, with composition. You know, we have to build romance. We have to build nostalgia. We have to build a story, just like Cameron spoke about building story in words. You've got to build a story into your imagery. So tell stories, because it'll touch more people than if you just take an image of the facade of a building. You know, think about how you compose and what you put in it. It's an important part of our photography that will touch other people far away. It's not a prerequisite. It's not the most important prerequisite, but like people, engage with them. Connect with your subject. I promise you the results you're going to get by interacting with someone, even if it's a thumbs up, can I take a photograph, or speaking to them, putting them at ease, gaining their trust, is going to get you so much more better results than if you just try and get something by going around them and then walking away and putting your camera in your pocket. It's very difficult, and not everybody is good at that. Look, if you're a nature photographer, or if you enjoy landscape, it doesn't matter. You don't have to engage with people. You know, if you shoot still lives and buildings, it's not important. But if you're a photographer that needs to show the people in your environment, try and go up to them and engage and try and get something from them. In some cultures, in some countries, it's quite intimidating, a camera. And you have to understand that and gain that kind of sensitivity with the people that you're photographing, and be aware of that relationship. But when you get eye contact and when you can get a good portrait and you bring that home, it can tell so much about that person and about their culture and where they come from, because you're telling a story in their face. And you can't get that if you try and doing it surreptitiously. You know, you get long lenses and all that kind of thing. But there's something about connecting with your subject. So it's not an easy one. I know not everybody has the confidence to go up to people and ask them if I can take their photograph, or get that close. But it's an important thing to do. I'm a lot in the studio in the day, and I shoot food, or I shoot various things, and sometimes I get stuck in like 5 days of shooting the same thing, and it's wonderful. I love it. But travel photography enables me to do everything, and I think a good starting point for travel photography is to be able to hone your skills in shooting people, into shooting food, into shooting landscapes and interiors, street photography. It all tells a story. You can do portraits, of a country. That's your specific assignment. But often, the food tells as much of a story as the interiors of a building, or the facades of buildings, or the landscape of that building. So you have to have strengths in a lot of different faculties of photography to be a travel photographer. So don't only focus on one. Try and focus on quite a lot of different genres of photography, because that's going to make your overall bank of imagery for whatever you need much stronger, your story or your blog. It's going to help tell a good story if you're strong with lighting and composing, for food and for interiors and documentary. It's all important. So just to recap, these are just some things that I'm taking it to the extreme. I'm taking it as like if you're doing this as a profession. I'm not saying you all have to have these things, but it helps. It really does. If you're passionate, if you're going to a new country, or it can be in a game reserve, and you just can't breathe because you want to take photographs, it helps, because it's going to show in your photographs. It's going to show in your images. Your love for taking pictures is going to show in the result. You have to be curious and observe, capture the essence, tell a story, like people, and it's good if you can be a jack of all trades. Okay, so just a quick reality check. Travel photography is not easy. It sounds glamorous, but it is very difficult. It's not something that is very easy if you have a family. You've got to be away for long periods of time, often sometimes for very short periods in one place. So you're traveling between hotels, you're traveling between, in and out of suitcases. You've got to do, you've got to be good with your itineraries. So there's a lot to it, but it goes behind photography. Income. The income isn't constant. It's not something that I can easily recommend to someone becoming a professional travel photographer. I maybe do travel photography twice in a year, and that's a lot. It's not my main income. It's something I love to do, and that's kind of why I balance the love for what I do with this. But it's not an easy income as a photographer to do full time. There's obviously language and safety concerns. You have to go into places that you've never been before, and you have to try and communicate to get to places you need to go to. And often that requires an interpreter, or it requires somebody to help you to get to what you need, to get that image you need. You can't just walk into places. Sometimes you actually have to get permission. Budget. Often what happens in these things, even if you get given a commission and assignment, I'll go into the kinds of different roles that you can get in photography, in travel photography, but the different kinds of jobs. But often there's a budget, and you've got to stick to that. So you're not staying in 5-star hotels. You have to, you have to cost your food, you have to cost your days there and your travel and things that you've got to maybe go into if it's a museum, if you've got to go get the shots. So there's lots of constraints and things that are working against you as well. You also have to remember that when you are shooting, this is less for a blog, it's more if you now are doing this as a business, or if you want to sell your images when you come back from your travels, that you have to sell yourself. You have to, before you go over to on your trip, you want to come back and you sell a story. You have to convince that editor, you have to convince that person that you're the right guy for the job. So you have to have a portfolio of imagery. You have to show them what you can do. I can talk to you for the rest of the day how brilliant I am at photography, but unless you see what I can do, you won't believe me. So this is one thing where you have to have a portfolio of imagery. You have to also, while you're on your trip, you have to write and research. You can't go and take a wonderful images and then you put it into a blog or a magazine, and then people want to know where that was taken, and you've got no account of what it was, or how to get there. It doesn't make any sense. So you have to work, you have to write. If you're not there with a writer, sometimes you go with a writer, you must do all that hard work yourself. So it's very important to document where you are. And then on your return, the actual work starts. If it's not a commission, you have to go sell that story. So we'll talk more about that just now. And also, it's not a holiday. I've done jobs where I've gone on trips without commissions, saying I'm going to sell it when I come back. I take my wife. Poor woman is schlepped everywhere around because I want to just capture everything. And she's reluctantly going along with me, and it's not easy for her. And I understand that because it takes it away from a holiday. So you must understand that when you're doing something and you're doing it properly and you want to cover a city or a country or part of an area, you want to cover it extensively and show the story in its entirety. You don't want to just capture an area, a small little part of it, and then go have your cappuccino. It doesn't work that way because you're not really doing justice to the place. So it is, that just happens for me that when I love to photograph. So when I go on holidays, it is a holiday for me to shoot. But not everybody that's with you will see it the same way. Okay, so you get different kinds of assignments. I have not included blogging here, just for the reason I told you earlier, but there are traditionally 2 ways that it can work. For National Geographic Traveller South Africa, I work for them quite a bit. They'll tell to me, listen, we want a story on the Hurukwaku Trail, which we did up through Table Mountain, went to all the the spots where you can stay along the way, and it comes down eventually at Cape Point. It's amazing because you're actually seeing Cape Town from a totally different perspective. I've lived here my whole life, never seen Cape Town from that perspective, and it's the old Bushman Trail. And schlepped my cameras, we had a writer, and there I knew I was being paid a fee, I knew how many days I was going for, I knew when I was coming back the story was going to be published. It was a commission. Then you get your pitch for your ideas. I went to Turkey on holiday, did some shots there, and came back, loved the images. I shot a whole lot of neg, actually I shot in film, and they bought the story and they published it. And I'll tell you a little bit about the differences as well with that too. A couple of different media, editorial. So travel, there's not a lot of titles that will take travel in a magazine. There's Getaway, obviously, commercial, a hotel, a spa, a game lodge will want you to take shots of their space. That's travel photography. You've got stock imagery, which is also very important, very popular, especially with wildlife. But often those get used in brochures for financial institutions or one of these spas that want to, they don't want to necessarily assign a photographer to go and shoot that. So they'll buy your imagery. At the moment, I've got images that are institutions looking at to want to use for their corporate identity, and it's of various parts of Africa. So it couldn't be too specific, but that's one way of using of making some income from your imagery as well. And of course, there's your blogging as well.